Okay. Hello, everyone. Okay. So, welcome everyone to today's episode. It's the weather right now is 0 degrees Celsius in Etobicoke, Toronto. And hopefully the spirit behind this episode keeps me warm. So let's begin. The title arose, two simulations within one truth. And the question where is experience existing? Oh man. I think it actually might be too cold to give this episode. You know, when you're given a podcast at water freezing temperature, it's like Alright, what can I say here? So, where is experience existing? You see, I have this attitude that if a viewpoint doesn't fascinate me, I don't really have a reason to engage it. But the idea of how is our experience existing is another way of saying what is the reality, what is the true nature of our minds. What can I say? You know, the cool thing about life is that there is no way we can artificially live it. And if I was to explain this, is that if a person was wondering about the nature of a simulation and the nature of a truth. Not is it only important to know why these ideas codependently exist, but why they have come to be an essential part of our identification with the world. I was thinking about 3 strategies. Think of it this way: you're a creature in a world, and you know you're here for some time, and then you will go, and while you're here, a part of you wonders what must be done. It's kind of like to be alive in the world is in some sense to be this intelligent power that has noticed itself and can direct itself. And now the question has come: why does this energy exist in this moment right now? I consider, and thanks for this being my talk, I can speak freely. There's a physical life, or I should say differently, there is a visible dimension to reality. There is an invisible dimension to reality, and then there is an inconceivable. So think of it this way: I'm this person who's opened my eyes in this world, and I'm realizing there is an event going on. That means whether I think I'm an intelligent creature, or whether I think there's God, or I think there's other types of archetypes, in reality everybody knows something is going on in the world. Simply said, something is happening. So it's as if our eyes have opened in the middle of a film, and even though we are an actor in it, we're wondering, why are we in a film at all? To be a human being is like an actor waking up in a film that they're not directing and wondering, what's the point of me being here? And as film directors have said to many actors, it is up to the eyes of the actor to bring the character to life. You see, I think this might be a perfect analogy. Let me build on this a bit more. So, we open our eyes in a world, and similarly, an actor finds itself on a set, and it's realizing that the action has been said. And it's as if the director's job, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take a theological pattern, and I'm trying to see it through this metaphor of filmmaking. To be a human being is to be the actor. The director seemed, let's for now call the director God. God is directing the universe. We are an actor in the universe. Now the actor cannot see the director. And it's as if the cameras are rolling and the director's not on the set but is watching the set. And so this actor has to make a decision. That means we are actors in a film we didn't direct, and we have an acting role. Now, what is the fun of being an actor, and what is the fun of being a filmmaker? Going to Toronto Film School, I had a privilege of realizing these positions. To be an actor, one is responsible to bringing a character to life. That means the director doesn't expect the actor to tell what the other actors should do, doesn't expect the one actor to act like another actor. In some sense, the director is watching the film set with the confidence that each actor knows what to do and when to do it. Now, the actor, I'll give you guys an incredible story from Marlon Brando and Francis Ford Coppola, the director of Godfather. Evidently, he's meeting Marlon Brando, and he's telling him about the script or whatnot. And Marlon Brando, what he does is like so next level. And there's something called method acting, and method acting is equivalent to method acting, excuse me. Sorry guys, because it's cold, there's going to be pauses, there's going to be, just trust the moment, I guess, when hearing these talks. Because what else can we do in this world? So what I was saying is that Marlon Brando, so Francis Ford Coppola goes and explains the story. He tries to make the story real for Marlon Brando. And Marlon Brando is a method actor. And method acting is another way of saying that the actor is losing himself in the role. So as I'm sharing this story, please keep in mind the parallels I drew between the world being a film we're an actor in, and at the same time, anything else I say about film. So, what Marlon Brando does, this genius method actor, is that he forgets himself for a moment. He goes and gets his shoe polish. The dude's living in his mansion, but he goes and gets shoe polish. And he gets some tissues and he puts the tissues underneath his lip, and then he uses the shoe polish to make his hair black. And like, I think it's Francis Ford Coppola who's like, yo, what is this guy doing? But in reality, what Marlon Brando is doing is trying to create the character of the Godfather, this incredible character in the history of cinema. It was brought to life by the actor. So what I'm trying to tell the viewers is that to be an actor is equivalent to bringing a character to life. It's in some sense possessing fiction. That means actors are incredible human beings, right? Because they are in some sense forgetting who they are, and they are letting their behavior to be possessed by an ego, by a different ego in the moment. You know, one day in the future, you know, hopefully after I've made my first couple films, I'll give a lot of talks on how I feel the experience of cinema should be. Right now, I'm someone who's talking about the cinematic experiences behind my eyes. Hopefully in the future there will come a time where I can speak about them in front in regards to films. But anyways, what the idea is that Marlon Brando brings the character to life, and when they shoot the film, that's who you see the Godfather is, as something that is developed. Now, even though I'm saying this about Marlon Brando and just the position of an actor, the difference between the actor and I would say the director is that the director is trying to see the whole film in the inner realms first, and the actor is just trying to see the parts he's in, right? That's the difference, you know. So anyways, we're human beings. We open our eyes, we're in a world. The child is physically born, and then they say around the age of 12, 11 or something, the child it can stabilize its own consciousness of its own reflection in the mirror and pretty much become an individual. And then what is life about after we have planted the flag of our individualism? Our experiences have a reference point to comparatively become wisdom for us. So the idea is like we're an actor on this karmic film set, Excuse me. So, if we were to think about what religions are saying, this is just something I'm noticing now. In religion, God is telling the individual, in monotheistic religion, God is telling the individual to be humble. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom in many monotheistic religious traditions. And religions are like acting guidelines, you know. And so the actor is not in charge of the whole film. The individual is not in charge of the whole existence, regardless of how much they want to build an advanced civilization. An advanced civilization, you know. And so what happens to the human life, to the religious human life, is very similar to the director, like religion being in some sense the script of nature and behavior. And so what's happening is pretty much the actor is being given instructions, and then the actor is told to have faith in the director that is directing the whole film and making sure everything is going all right. So in religion, the individual ego is submitted to the divine will. So what does that mean? It's another way of saying the submission of our individual activity. It's like imagine a spoiled actor, and this spoiled actor is like, where's my coffee, where's my, everything I need to feel perfect right now, where is everything, where's my assistant? But in some sense, this is one of those early films where the director and everything is low budget. So the director looks at the actor and says, go get your own cup of coffee. As if the coffee is there. What I'm trying to say is that in religion, the actor has pure faith in the director and is just meant to say a few lines. Now, in human life, there's something else going on. In human life, in the dimensions of human life, there is another component, and what's remarkable is that, think of it this way, that we are being physical actors in a physical film set where we didn't set up and we're not directing its movement, but behind our eyes, we are directing our inner realm. It's kind of weird. It's like in front of our eyes, God is the creator of the universe. Behind our eyes, we are the creator of the ability of man. We are the mover of it. I shouldn't say we are the creator, but we are it's as if in front of your eyes, the free will is a smaller circle in the greater circle of nature's will or the divine will. But behind our eyes, we seem to be a director. Free will is another way of saying the human consciousness, compared to any other species on this planet, has a greater capability of directing its own action. So what does that mean? That means the director can't tell the actor how to bring the character to life. That's the actor's decision. But in some sense, the director can tell if the actor's performance was enough or not. People don't know this, but Stanley Kubrick was this director who would take it would take like 80 takes for him to get a good shot of a film, right? The actors that worked with him felt like they were being destroyed in a machine. And of course, I don't know the bizarreness of the acting world, you know. You know, sometimes I don't feel like I'll be good at acting, and then there's other times where I feel I've been acting as a human being my whole life. So the question, where is experience existing? This goes back to this idea, okay? This film analogy that fits into this episode. So the director, so think of it this way, the actor, like it's kind of like God. You know, it's kind of strange. If we take the director's analogy, the metaphor of the director as the divine will of the film, not the divine will outside of the film, so, but let's say the director is in some sense the divine will, and the actor is the free will, okay? And it's kind of like we're not responsible in using our free will to control like how the world will happen, but we can use our free will to control how our own world happens, okay? And I think this is the secret to being able to psychologically with stability pilot through in this earth plane. Okay, because let me tell you something they don't tell anybody about philosophy. Philosophy is for those who are left into wanting to know what the edge of the world is. Philosophy is one of the most profound subjects, and let me tell you, how you know a civilization is inefficient or is not living up to its potential is when the philosophers are silenced. You know, whoever who hears this talk in history of humanity, any civilization where the philosophers, which are the great question explorers of the system, you know, if the philosophers are silenced, that means the world is dying. You know? And philosophy is not just like an educational something in a branch of academia. Philosophy is an urge. The creature opened its eyes in a world and is wondering, where am I? Right? So that there's an intensity there. Philosophy, like people look at philosophers and they're like, oh, look at this, you know, adorable writer. You know, but they don't realize that to be a philosopher is to be able in any moment in the space-time to continuum to look at a closed system and see how it can be open. Our minds are not here to suffer. Our minds are here to find greater joy, right? And if we can make the greater joy the victory of the species, our individual life has been the victory of our collective life. You know what it is to me? There's something very romantic about the destiny of the human species. People just think it's extinction and they're like, oh man, the candlelight's gonna go out. You know, but I will tell you something else. The romance that the human mind has can be said to divide into 3 dimensions of time. A person can fall in love with the past. True religious people are those who have loved the past to such a degree they don't want to exactly forget it. Okay? Now we come to the present. Okay, so there's a romance with the past, with the truth and value of the past. But then there's a romance in the present, and the romance in the present is pretty much what will happen in the unknown. So it's kind of like direct experiential expectation of the unexpected when it comes to the romance of the present. But if we were to think of a romance of the future, I want every human being, and eventually every conscious entity in the universal sector, in the existential sector, it's like the human being has to find a reason to love where it's going in an unknown world. And this is the romance with the future, right? It's pretty much falling in love with the greatness of the whole system. For now, a lot of human beings experience this through having children, you know? To be honest, for me, a very poetic metaphor for the genetical reproduction of the species is like archers. Archers, like each DNA is like grabbing an arrow and shooting into the future, right? And it's as if then that arrow becomes an archer and shoots another arrow. That arrow becomes another archer and shoots another arrow. And it's like a lineage, right? To walk towards the title. 2 simulations within 1 moment. 2 moments where consciousness is being directed and directing. The idea of God it's a very powerful idea. The idea of God is, you can say, one of the greatest ways the free will has interacted with the unknown. There is nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to human history. It's like a person wondering about their own mistakes, then a person reading history books and being like, holy shit, what are the mistakes the species has made? But then eventually realizing that whatever our ancestors have done, the progress continued. That's the style of our species. Our species has found a way to live for itself, but to pass on something to the collective. Right now as I'm speaking, our species is in a battlefield. And if people are like, Mr.Within, what is the species fighting? I will say many opponents at the same time. The species is fighting time. The species is fighting the unknown. The species is fighting how language is trying to exchange itself for the human's free will. It's so strange. It's like in front of our eyes, we are not the director of the world, so all we can do is act. But behind our eyes, we are the director of how we consider our own archetype of a self. You know, life is very poetic. The moment you can walk alone and you can move the moment alone, then others are found. You know, dear viewers, I have wondered, just to be super like metaphysically real right now, I have wondered what sort of like in some sense, what sort of karma do I have? And I'll get back to the title and the development of the metaphor I was talking about earlier, but this is, you know, I don't have kids, but I speak as if one day my kids may hear these talks. I have wondered about what sort of karma do I have. And the mind has presented various images. Pretty much I can tell you anytime I ask a question, it's like a vacuum or space is found, and then in that space suddenly the ideas emerge. Just like blood circulates, consciousness to inner experience such as Quela, it's also circulating. Thoughts are in a sort of circulation. And our memories circulate, and they are also activated by the outer realms. But anyways, in my search of what kind of karma do I have, there was a time where I was drawn to the archetype of certain figures. Like for some time, you know, I felt in my past life I might have been Rishi Vyasa. So imagine I'm someone trying to figure out what kind of karma I have, and I'm looking at the accessible stories. And then eventually I realized that at the cause of the universe there was nothing, and the concept of karma is that you caused the effect. So think of this strange thing that human beings are being told they have karma. They're in a cause and effect universe, but the causal position of reality was not a shape, was not a form. It's like when the sentence is ushered, out of nothing came something. That is such a profound philosophical idea, because it means karma may exist, but the person who has karma doesn't exist. As if we go really far back into how the world became itself, we will realize there has been a moment that has never changed from the beginning. That is the hidden power of space. It's like time watches the human species and space watches time. And what really space is the eyes of a living world. And we should not fear it. The human species will be so advanced it will communicate with all inner and outer dimensions and build the most advanced database archive and just, you know, initiative in the cosmos for intelligence. You know, we're not just the most advanced beings on the planet. we seem to have the whole the whole solar system to ourselves. Even though I will make this claim, like I've made this maverick like sort of claim where I've said that I think the ring of Saturn is engineered. I think there's beings living on Saturn, and the ring is an engineering thing, right? Even though there's explanations of it not being. Like it's a sort of layer of gas. But anyways, I don't know, I have a feeling there's something unnatural about empty planets, you know? It's something poetic and unnatural, you know, an unnatural poetry of why there is no mover on a planet. You know, it's as if we wonder who was the planet waiting for? Like all these creatures, all these ecosystems, why did they emerge? Sure, even from a secular perspective, we give it to randomity, but believing in randomity is equal to believing in God. You see, I'm trying to say that our common sense as human beings is based on ideology. Ideology is based on how we're being a self in a world. The self and the world is the most initial duality. That means it's the first kind of mind's way of kind of figuring itself out, you know. And so all of knowledge for now is for a self in a world, you know. When it comes to these mystical talks, it's more about how there's a world behind your eyes, you know. Right now I consider there's the outer realms and the inner realms, and we have people like Elon Musk. You know, who else can I say? The list isn't that big, but it's like people in the outer realms who are advancing external technologies. And then I would consider myself and all the popular philosophers of modernity to, in some sense, be those who are trying to expand man's internal technologies. Right, because it's like it's not just that we are alive in a world, it's that how we're being alive in a world is being experienced as multiple worlds. What imagination is actually, if a person pays attention to it, they're going to realize how their attention moves, thoughts activate, whether we like it or not, you know. Somebody may think they don't have thoughts, but let me tell you, there's like rivers behind the eyes of man. There's so many different rhythms. There's even states beyond humanization. The only way I've been able to experience these dehumanized states is because I had a sort of bhakti yogi trust in how the moment knew what it had to do. You know, I wouldn't say I'm a person who has seen God, but I would say I am a person who has seen God's creation. You know, when I wonder about the honesty of my being, can I claim to be any idea, or was there a moment in my childhood before I knew how to speak, I was being the presence of the whole moment at once? That's the majesty of consciousness, right? You know, we don't realize the magnificence we've been bestowed. You know, it's like we're so blessed as creatures when it comes to the realm of creatures. In Tibetan Buddhism, if people get into that, like, I'm not going to get into it, but they have so many classifications of lower worlds and upper worlds. And actions would be, in some sense, reasons to fall into these upper and lower worlds. What I'm trying to tell the viewers is that I try as a being, I notice that the mind is accessing information, and it's reorganizing that information as a story to ground itself in the middle of nowhere. Really, all of life is happening in the middle of nowhere. The species just couldn't handle the void, so it ran into the simulation of language. When I think about the human species, I think about how many human beings have not been born yet, and how many unique perspectives on reality will emerge. And we can say mankind has achieved one victory in 2020, and we have managed to keep the stream of novelty running. The species has, in some sense, confirmed a backup system for itself. The world is designed to have intelligence move in it, you know. Hilariously, both in secular and non-secular cultural contexts, it's kind of like stillness is death. You know, it's like, and really what the human personality is how the energy in the moment is willing to move anything at all in the moment. you know, I'm a person who I would say in various moments I've been kind of seen as someone who doesn't have a personality. You know, and people are going to be like, Mr. Within, what do you mean? And what I mean by that is that I normally don't function under the premise that I'm a thought in the moment. So my natural state is to just be the still presence of sight, just being in the moment, because it can't be anything more than that. Not that it can't be anything more than that, but it's like I have wondered about the edge of my intelligence. It's as if before you can master something, like nobody can master a car, like driving a car that's endlessly being built. Imagine this limo that's never stops being made. Like imagine the longest limo in history. you know. What I'm trying to say is that if a person wants to master the vehicle, you want to master your craft wherever you are listening to me. Whether let's say you were a swordsman in medieval times and you want to master sword fighting. You want to master, like, becoming an imperial swordsman. Like, this is what I have realized. Anything we don't know the boundary of, we can't control. And human beings, the nature of our greed, evolutionary greed component of human intelligence, the desire bound, is that because we want to control the moment, the ego cannot control something that is not a closed system. So the ego has to close the system, and so when we as human beings look at other people, the brain creates an impression, and then the brain closes the system. But what people are very multidimensional open systems. Pretty much an open system can update. A closed system is like trying to be a statue in time. You know, like the ideological truth is trying to pass the test of time. You know, whether it's let's say literature found in the context of revelation, whether it's literature found in the inspiration of just human writing, right? It's as if, as someone who has played with the language simulation, I would tell the viewers that when you discover something new, you care for it. It's just in our nature. And what I'm trying to say is, like, a species in the void that is conscious enough to truly acknowledge what clarity could imply. You know, language is in some sense a geometrical structure trying to pass the test of time. Whether it's an architect building let's say designing a building, or whether it's let's say a speaker designing language, you know, a communicator designing communication, right? Or a writer writing a sentence. It's as if all three are watching the unknown future and wondering how far their creation goes, right? I mean, what is even the evolutionary drive? You know, it's like children are like are like artwork, you know, that the parents want to see, like, you know, to be endlessly drawn, right? So it's one of these situations in life where how we justify the value of the human being dictates its outcome. continue. There is a mystery behind our eyes that is seeking experiential contentment with what is moving it. The idea of two simulations within one truth. Just like we have two eyes that see the same moment. It's like when we close our left eye, we see the truth, but not all of it. You know, when we close our right eye, we see the truth, but not all of it. But when both of our eyes are open, we see the truth. We access the whole moment. So, just like we have two eyes that see the same, there is an inner realm, our life as space, and there is our outer realm as life as matter. Now, something very bizarre that I don't know how many people will be capable of, but I will share. Pretty much imagine your mind is another body. That means the person's like, it's like the person's like, yo, I got a soul. And then the person's like, yo, this soul is in my body. Now, Mr.Within is saying that piloting consciousness, begin to see it as if you are not just in the matter, you're in the space. You are an intelligence that is singular at its core, but not as singular that conception can notice. So it's like an inconceivable singularity. It's like the center of reality is a giant black hole ideologically. You know? Really, the bizarreness of our universe is that it's in some sense a sort of gigantic cylinder. Like I might be that person saying the whole cosmos is shaped like a cylinder, but but somebody has to say it, you know. What I'm trying to say is we have a life in matter and we have a life in space. We think our brain is just projecting space, but let me tell you something incredible. Life exists in both of its divisions. Chaos and order are both true. And it's this notion that, for example, in the Abrahamic tradition, God had an angel, for example, the Archangel Michael, you know. And God had, in some sense, an angel, like the rebel, the Archangel Lucifer, before it fell from heavens onto earth and became something else, right? But the idea is that the angels were seen as emanations of God, and so it's as if they had emanated into different positions in reality. But what I'm trying to say is that it's like whether the angel is good or bad, it is both part of truth. The archetype of an angel is that which carries a will, a divine will. And really what the angelic is selfless movement. Angels are another way of saying how living inside a collective mind would feel like. But anyways, I think that would be a cool talk if somebody tries to talk about what life looks like from the perspective of like the archetype of the angel. What I'm trying to say is, regardless of categorization, the energy of the realities of each category is the same. It's like, imagine a chaotic and ordered being asked the spirit of energy. Are you good or evil? And energy is like the spirit of energy being like, I was here before you, man. You know, before duality, there was a truth of space. Our mind is how we are embodied in subtler space. We're not just living in our bodies, we are the experience the body is having of itself is around its body. So the edge of the world is acting like the edge of our minds due to the kind of candle glow our consciousness has in the dark cosmos, in the dark room of the cosmos. What I'm trying to say is that the era of the multidimensional human being has come. The evolutionary chart could not expect what will happen to the human being. The human being is a multidimensional being, and all these dimensions can simultaneously be singular, and the singular can be void, and the void can be the infinite, and so can reversely from the void come the singular, from the singular come the dual, from the dual come from the infinite. That means the type, like when I speak about an advanced communicator, or how advanced communicators were built to advanced civilization, the idea of the advanced communicator is that the human being has realized that to be a human being is just one part of the moment. That means it's just a component. It's as if our body is in the space of our mind, and on the space of our mind is being the information that reality is organizing, reorganizing constantly. It's kind of like if we close our right eye and just see with our left eye, again, we see truth, but if we don't see it completely, and it's kind of like if you only live as a mind on earth, it's going to be an incomplete vision, and if you only live as a body, it's going to be an incomplete vision, and it's as if there has to be this realization that there is some sort of force instantaneously acting as a witness of itself. So two simulations within one truth is how all dimensions and all categories in reality can simultaneously be the same value. We can look at any form, any shape, whether human being, whatever archetype we choose, and we could be like, this archetype could have a value that is nothing, zero. This moment can have a value that is singular, and then this moment can have a value that is just dual, and this moment can have a value that is infinite. Right? So we have a capability to look at someone and be like, that person's nothing, you know? We could look at someone and be like, oh my god, that person's everything, as if that person's being a universal being instead of a human being. And then we can have this view that this person is a good person, bad person, and really when good and evil come into place, it's about how we ascribe inner value to outer action. I'm pretty much saying in this episode, just like we have two eyes that we see something, there is the space of our awareness, and then there's what's in the moment. Traditionally, this is considered as the observer and the observed. is experience existing. If the void is a possibility, that means imagine everything going, the destiny of human species being nothing. So one path is we return to being nothing. Not just individually, but even the species goes extinct because it wasn't smart enough to not go extinct. Everything can walk towards nothing. Everything can walk towards being everything, remaining as everything. The attention can walk into dualistic systems. That means till the end of time there will be not only good and bad, but self and world fragmentations. You know, it's as if, imagine somebody was offered 4 worlds. You're like, all right, man, you can have any of these worlds, but you get them all at the same time. So it's as if the person chooses the void, then the singular, dual, and the infinite remain as perception. The future has an incredible power to visually, instantaneously release the past from its suffering. Right now, I can wonder about the moment, okay, how is my existence being a cause for my experience of my existence? And I go through the line of thinking of being the line of thought of okay, I'm being a biological entity that's just existing in the moment right now, and because my body is existing, there is something for there to be a mind of. So in some sense, because we know there is the body, it's as if any time the awareness goes somehow, human intelligence fathoms the moment beyond its just sensory. It's kind of like when you notice imagination happening. So many people think you have imagination. It's like that's such a foolish view on it. Imagination's like you kind of putting a teacup, like an empty teacup, into a river and just picking up a scoop. And then the scoop of the water of the river is like all that you can say. It's like there's a different way the world is happening behind our eyes than in front of our eyes. And I'm saying behind our eyes when it comes to the inner realms, 4 approaches are possible. Now, even though I'm saying 2 simulations within one truth, it's like I'm kind of like pointing to the yin-yang symbol. But at the same time, there's the reality of a singular nature. That means there's worlds that are just singular. We are not just human beings on Earth. We are human beings inside a singular reality. This is what the common man has to believe to physically exist on Earth, you know. And every person has to ask themselves this question: well, who is civilization made for? Civilization or an advanced civilization is this idea that what we're all doing with our energy is leading to the greatest vision of the collective. That means it's not just world peace. After we have world peace, we're like, great, people can talk to each other now, minds can activate, right? And so imagine after world peace, there's going to begin the global brainstorming sessions. People are going to feel like, if society becomes dishonest, corrupt, inefficient, and cruel and savage in the future, what is going to be a force or an archetype or a spirit that will come to meet that moment? And it's the educational system. The educational system is going to be, in some sense, like a hidden warrior in the future. The intellect is our collective way of being able to reason, right? It's like the human species just has to realize that in front of your eyes, one world, behind your eyes, abstract limits to each world. It's like if somebody says Mr.Within is what somebody sees in a dream and what somebody imagines throughout the day the same. And I would say the biggest realization I've had on what the nature of our minds are as beings is that regardless of whatever way we separate the moment, because the whole moment's energy is starting in a singular way, consciousness is like its code is starting from singularity. That means even though consciousness awakening on the surface of the earth biologically is equivalent to like something noticing it's in a world but noticing itself first. That means, think about in evolution, there had to have been a phase where the creature didn't know where it was walking, and it just had to experience trusting being something. We have 4.5 billion years of a genetical memory in trusting how to exist. If a person doesn't even have too many thoughts, I think the survival handles itself. It's like imagine giving a young kid a super advanced computer. It's like human brains have a ridiculous conscious capability of reality. That it's like our progress is the extension of dimensions. People don't understand history is a multidimensional systems journey. And what is inspiring behavior? It's ideology. Victor Hugo, this writer, badass writer, he has this quote where he says, nothing is more powerful than an idea which its time has come. That means something is happening in the domain of the intellect, something is happening in the domain of the emotion, some way it's happening in the domain of the physical biology, where it's like just like the planets aligned or the perfect light being found, the perfect mirror sequence, It's like the mind aligns to its most simplest way of how it's being before any conceptual projection, that if a person doesn't move at all, they will stop being human. You see, and I don't want to say that intensely, but it's this idea of that life is a force. Like we should have this idea that we are not just a creature on the planet, we are a force. We are a force that has an individual directing ability. that means all the species on nature are bound to their environment. Their ecosystem defines them. Their ethnocentrism is where they found themselves on the planet. Do you know? But ultimately, we know that there is awareness to the moment prior to ideology, just like how children are not a sense of self to themselves ideologically before they learn their name. Do you know what I'm saying? It's as if there's a ton. We all, deep down in our psyche or subconscious, whatever you'd like to call it, in our childhood have experience of experiencing moving in existence without having a thought of ourselves. As if that brain neural circuitry, that neural pattern hadn't happened yet. Do you know? That neural connection. So we have this pure access to this memory of being present as the whole moment of intelligence and having an instantaneous trust in the moment and moving. And then this is like, the wonderfulness of a childhood that it comes, in some sense, as Carl Jung says, it gets crushed by the true, let's say, tragic realities of life, right? So it's kind of like there's a non-ideological state where we've all expanded into our conscious senses of self through. And really what being a human being is something that requires conscious effort and energy. Right? That means regardless of what all these, self-help industries are saying about how people should become better, it's like on some basic level where this energetic being and there is a capability, and to be a human being is to see the hands that you have been dealt, which is another way of saying to wonder about the edge of your mind, but not in a way that you lose the stability. It's kind of like we're like an excellent poet, like let me say poetically, an excellent philosopher is like climbing the unknown in a mountain, but has his safety net, right? Has the safety set. So it's another way of saying that we don't fear the unknown, but we use the technologies we have. That's pretty much it. And our existence, our DNA is like a technology where right now, we are technically being a biological system. A biological system that is generating a psychological position to be a character in a story, to have something to say. Like that's the depth of our attention, what it animates us. So to truly wonder about the presence of your eyes is to realize why the ancient sages and saints would say, yo, be honest, it's one lifetime. Right? The person's like, no, I want to be, crooked and evil and wicked and get ahead and access my desires quickly. Right? And the sage was like, yo, you get one lifetime to see what the honest version of yourself was, or is. Right? So, sorry guys. So, and what Mr.Within is saying with this whole effort behind this channel, I'm saying it's as if imagine living a lifetime and not realizing or attempting what the most advanced version and state of the moment can be, right? It's as if whatever context you find the story of your life in, we cannot avoid the experiential presence of consciousness, right? I don't know, it's as if I tell myself I love the human species, right? But when I look at history, I'm like, what am I looking at? When I look at the future, that's where I feel like there's a privilege. Like, it's kind of hilarious, but to be in the here and now is to be the future. That means a being that has found a freedom beyond time should not fear entering and building a future in time. some company suddenly asks itself, who am I working for? And imagine now, right, like a civilization asks itself, who am I working for? Or all efforts, all human beings just for a second wonder about, okay, or let me say it this way, the whole system. Imagine a global mind suddenly wonders about what it's working for. And the idea should be that if we can do something smart, if we can see that something smart is possible, we should attempt it. And what smart means is that it's a comparison, it's like the contextual spectrum you hold as a human being. You know? It's like the species is enchanted by language to such a degree that it has forgotten about the direct experiential mystery of life. You know, the future generations now somebody's got to say it, they are so conditioned to try to fit into the past that they're not responsible for the future. You know, what is happening in human civilization is that an emotional urge towards, it's like if a species concludes that life is about how we feel, right, then the intellectual variables become irrelevant. People are living very easily as emotional beings, but not realizing, right, that the emotion is a short-term response. Do you know? What emotions are how the contextual value systems to the identity are changing. You see, it's like there's something about the meaning of the world changes, and it's like, lakes form underneath our eyelids, you know. You know, we can't ignore how everybody is being an energy right now, and how their energy moves, and the consequence it has in reality. Then ethics becomes applied. Ethics is consequential, you know. Reality is so fascinating because we have no idea what it is. And all we have to work with is just our tiny little bubble of what we have access to. Right? Do you see, like, in the future of humanity, our species is so smart that our species will replicate itself. It's another way of saying the intellect is fulfilling the destiny of immortality for the human species. But simultaneously, it's like if extinction was a horizontal game, transcendence is a vertical game. What I feel happens in a true mystical, the concept of a mystical awakening, the person has to be like, okay, awakening to what or from where? Right? Let's say somebody right now, they want to be free, and they want to be so free that it's as if the concept of freedom no longer is even necessary. Right. So it's about contentment with what a person doesn't know, feeling it like a force. Like right now, I feel like my body's in the moment, physically existing. I feel what is surrounding my body is like my mind, like a spotlight. So it's as if I'm like this lantern But then I'm also noticing outside of the lantern, outside of the glow, it's as if like all my certainty in ideological structure is in the thin ice of an unknown changing world. You know? That's the nature of language, right? Think of it this way. That they say man is in an Abrahamic religious context. They say man is made in the image of God. And I want to tell people that language is made in the image of man. Just as man is trying to reach God's level, language is trying to reach human level. So all of mankind's creations are trying to become as advanced as the level of man. And then man is trying to become as advanced as the level of his own conceivable, subjective conceivable creator. You see, because emotions arise when the intellect goes into the passenger seat. You know, there's moments in life where for me, it has always been like, if I was to limit my emotions in this lifetime, it would be like pretty much basically I function through two emotions. Is it sacred or is it not sacred? And it's another way of saying the human being decides what action has what sort of value due to their own archetypal sense of purity. Right, so it's as if there's an original state of being, and then there is desire shifting one into simulator replacements of the original. Who knows why people draw art? You know, who knows what really is behind every action of the human being? But all we know is that for the first time in history, we're all gentle and compassionate, and we just realize how advanced the mind is to a degree where violence becomes such unnecessary. You know, if somebody says is violence stupid, I'll say no, it's unnecessary. The species can experience the same sort of violence in cyberspace. You know, like instead of world leaders going to wars, you know. Imagine all wars on the planet were put on pause, and these next level video game development companies came and replicated the exact military power of each nation that was fighting, right? And they create a cyberspace game, and instead of millions of people dying on a level, if the problem arose on the level of mind, it should be solved on the level of mind. That means, let's say there's person A and person B, and person A and B, they get into a sort of argument, right? It's as if the argument is from a discussion, that means that the intensity in the moment arose from a subjective nature. So the whole point of us evolving is to be able to use our minds, to be violent. Is to be ignorant of the environment, and that's when the environment possesses us. Ultimately, energy has nothing to fear because it's being everything. Being present. It's like they ask the person, what guru do you follow? And the person says, I follow guru energy. Literally, energy, the idea of energy is the guru. Imagine in the future, a strange religion starts called energyism. And they just take the definition of energy as like divine revelation. Anyways, let me land the plane. Where is experience existing? Just like we can consider our body, our existence is causing our experience. When we close our eyes and we experience whatever we see behind our eyes, that the moment changes. Excuse me. The moment changes. An attempt is made. Attention finds itself in the world, finds itself to be able to be the whole world, to be in the world, to be the space where the world is happening. The mysteries of our intelligence remain. The species doesn't know that much about itself, and that means explorers are needed. Really what it is the Upanishads have attempted the problem, and they've said the seer of the seen is unseen. Something, due to its instantaneous nature, has an inconceivable value and is instantaneously noticing. It's like the inconceivable witnessing instantaneously how the conception is divided between the realm of the body and then the realm of the mind. So it's kind of realizing your mind and body are being the same moment. Your inner subjects and outer objects can also be the same moment. And really what the value of the intelligence is we are linking duality. The personality is living in accordance to how much the world is unknown, and then it has an opportunity to do something in a known. My simple vision is we need advanced beings, we need an advanced humanity to build an advanced civilization. And the argument for the advanced civilization is that just to get to see Like, it's worth building an advanced civilization just to see how the collective victory would look like. Imagine you're such a capable champion in the realm, wherever you are listening to. Imagine you're one of the most advanced beings on the planet, and you've experienced an advanced individual victory. Now, what greater victory remains? The greatness of our greatness is the greatness of our world. After we have lived as a self, we will be where the self has happened. You know, the secrets behind what consciousness really is its recognition of what is there before any intent. That means to use your mind on earth is like to watch how the earth is moving the body, and then the mind trusts a rhythm and actualizes. So what it is like there's something interdimensional going on psychologically, experientially, but something singular existentially is happening. That means that, like, right now, me giving this talk, like, if somebody was like, what percentage of this talk is physical, me putting it in words, the sound in my biological body are physical, but where the ideas are before I speak them and I vocalize them, they're in my inner space. There's an inner life this whole time. And that's where the true self is hiding. So anybody who feels turbulence, karmic turbulence, it's like there's a true self behind it. Our attention doesn't just move in the moment, it moves the moment behind us. Where is the mind that is aware of the body right now? The mind is not an object, so there is a sort of anti-location. We have antimatter, so it's like the subjective representation of that. Ultimately, just like somebody would grab a sword back in the day and just go into the forest and practice sword fighting, let's say in medieval times. Every day, let's say, the swordsman would go practicing on trees. The idea is cultivating experience, using that experiential energy to build something, watching what you build and learning from the experiential dimensions that are coming. It seems like there's infinite choices in the void when it comes to the expression of a person. But we have to ask ourselves as human beings, how much do we care for our humanity? Right? That means how can we be a species that is trying to build an advanced civilization, but it still has internal civil war and cruelty, right? Like, the species has potential for something advanced, but it's behaving in an incredibly inefficient way. The era of advanced communication means the era of advanced minds. You know, we wonder about advancement, and at the same time, the actor plays its part, and the director is its own trust. That means, imagine, you know, God, from a religious lens, God, theological lens, God created man, and imagine man had an appreciation. It's like, I like what you created. As if, imagine you do honor the existential position. And then from the honor of the value of existing as a being in a realm, we honor the realm with our own advanced presence. So it's as if, somebody, before they go into a temple, like they bow and then they go into a temple, as if acknowledging that once they enter that reality, they are conscious, or they're consciously entering that reality. Human behavior is a sort of indirect ritualism of a subjective expression. So what I'm trying to say is that human behavior is like, think of all the different ways that human beings can behave, and then think of these behaviors becoming rhythmic and becoming a sort of pattern, a looping pattern. I think the civilization 1.0 has enchanted itself with language and entranced the individual's physical life in a loop. People are living in paradoxes. The story of the world right now is a paradox. We have to have a different explanation. We need the next level of, writers and visionaries of Earth to, in some sense, speak up. An advanced civilization, like an airplane, kind of slowly lifting up. You'll have the same feeling. It's like a savage animal became a universally conscious pilot of the moment. It's like from the Homo sapien, internally we went to the multidimensional pilot. Consciousness is now here. Consciousness is a new chapter in history. If before nobody cared about how the chapter was being written. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful, and there's more to say on this topic, but wonder about your attention, and you'll discover its nature. Much blessings and wise mankind.